Hi, I'm Belle from Seems So Me, and in this tutorial I'm going to show you how to make this really handy hysterectomy pillow. And I'm going to be featuring Cottage Core by Jessica Flick by Benartex, which is what I'm going to be using for this collection. And in this tutorial, this actually is a version in which you can make it where both sides are the same fabric, or you can do what I did and make each side a different print. Now, this hysterectomy pillow is super helpful. I actually went through a hysterectomy in September, which was about 3 months ago, and did a lot of research on what is helpful for the healing process and right after surgery. And I can tell you, I used this pillow at least for the first 9 weeks. And you'll see here how practical it is. So you've got a pocket on both sides here, and this pocket is really helpful if you have your cold packs. I've made it the pocket big enough to where you actually can fit a cold pack in there. These they sent home with me from the hospital, but I also had other ones too. And then this is a hot pack, and it fits right in there. And then when you actually have this against your waist like this, you can see that that is up against your incision. Now mine was laparoscopic, but this also would be good for if you have a C-section or any kind of abdominal surgery. You can use it that way. And you can see that your arms just fit down here on the side. Now I used this in the car, and I'll show you a clip here in a minute of what it looks like in the car, because you have a seat belt that comes across and it really protects those incisions. The ride home from surgery was a bit bumpy, and this really helps just kind of protect that seat belt and something to kind of hold on to when you sneeze or when you cough. And so I wanted to be able to make something for you so that you could make one for yourself or for someone else. Now I've seen several types of these pillows. I got the idea because I saw something similar on Amazon, and then I was in a hysterectomy group and someone had posted this kind of pillow there, so I just kind of reverse engineered on how to make it. Now then for the other side, if you want this to be the front, you actually could put I used my remote control. You could put in there your chapstick because my lips were pretty chapped, cough drops, your cell phone. So it's up to you if you make 1 or 2 pockets, but the tutorial I'm going to walk you through shows you how to make both. Now, if you want to get fancy and do some kind of patchwork, you absolutely could, but all you are going to need with this is you're going to need half a yard of fabric, and you'll need that for the front and for the back, and I will walk you through how to cut that as well as the pockets, how to stuff it. You'll need a bag of 16-ounce Poly-Fil, and then you will also need your thread and your sewing machine. Now, I have another tutorial on how to make this actual, it's a lava sand heating pad for your neck. I have a whole tutorial, the link will be below for you on how to make this. This was also needed for my hysterectomy because when they put the carbon dioxide into your abdomen to really blow that up for the surgery, the gas gets trapped in your body and it actually gets stuck in your shoulders and your neck. So make sure you click the link below for the tutorial. I use the same fabric using lava sand, which does not spoil, and this also can be laundered, it can be washed. So make sure you click the link below on that. So this is the hysterectomy pillow. Let's get started on how to make it. Okay, so let me show you what this looks like sitting down. So you can see it's got the little armholes here. And this is how I actually used it when I was sitting in the car, but also in the living room in a recliner, and then if I was sitting up in bed. You can see that it really protects your whole abdominal area. And if you have your ice pack or your heating pack down here, it works really well. And just to keep all your little bits handy that you may have that you want to put in here. And so when you think about it, I know I had 2 cats that love to get up in my lap and I couldn't let them on my stomach. Also, if you cough or sneeze, it's helpful because you can actually hold on to this when you do that with those incisions. So this is what it looks like. It's super comfortable. This one, like I said, is reversible, so you can pick either side, or you can use the same print for both sides. So now I'm in my car, and one of the things I use this pillow for, besides when I was in the house recovering, is when we had to travel home from the hysterectomy and for follow-up doctor's appointments for the 12 weeks that I'm recovering. So I'm actually at the 12-week mark. We had to go back at the 4-week and the 8-week mark. And I used this pillow on the way home. So as you can see here, it fits really nicely in the car. And then when you put your seatbelt on, Normally this would rub up against your whole abdominal area and it's extremely uncomfortable. But also, it also protects you when you're driving. So if you were in a car wreck, you see where the seat belt is, the pillow does provide a little bit more protection in case, you know, your partner or whoever's driving you had to slam on the brakes. This is gonna tighten up and it's gonna actually hit the pillow instead of your fresh incisions that you had. Now I had 5 small 1/2-inch laparoscopic incisions, and they were small, but they were still open incisions. So you can see how even if you had a hysterectomy where you actually had the long bikini cut, this can be really helpful. So this is what it looks like in the car, easy to strap on, and I actually used this during these first, I would say 9 weeks of the recovery. So let's get started talking about our fabrics and the cuts that we're going to make for our hysterectomy pillow. I have chosen to use this really cute collection. It's called Cottage Core by Jessica Flick, and this is a Benartex collection. It's a new collection that will be coming out soon, and you've got all of these fun little animal prints. There's mushrooms, there's flowers. Here is the full collection in the strip set here, and you actually could piece jelly roll strips together. These could make a really fun patchwork pillow if you wanted. You could use charm squares, you could use mini charm squares, just whatever you'd like. You could use your scraps, but I want to talk to you about the size that you'll actually need to be able to make this. I'm actually going to just use 1/2 yard cuts, but you do have options if you wanted to really make this pieced or used orphan blocks or anything like that. So what I've selected are these prints. These two right here are 1/2 yard cuts. So what you're gonna need really, if you're wanting just to use whole cloth, is 2 1/2 yard cuts. One will be the front, one will be the back. You could choose to have the same print for front and back, so then you would need 2 1/2 yard cuts of the same print. Or if you're like me, I'm going to give some option to have this print on the front, this print on the back, or vice versa, whichever way you turn it. The pillow is reversible the way I'm making it because there'll be 2 pockets, one in the front, one in the back. So I'm going to use these 2 for the pillow body, and then I've decided to use this fun print with the little foxes to cut my 2 pockets out of, and it coordinates with this collection. You can see the teal there. So again, 2 1/2 yard cuts. Now, one thing that's going to be important about this is we're going to be cutting on the fold, really, because this hysterectomy pillow opens up pretty long. So when we cut this, we're really only kind of cutting half until we open up this full 1/2 yard cut. So again, you'll want to make sure that you cut on the fold here. So you can see my salvage here is on this side. And so this is actually going to be cut 16 by 20. Okay, the 20 is because that's the long part of the pillow that really kind of wraps around. And then your 16 here is how tall the pillow is when it's around your waist. So what I'll be doing is actually taking my 2 1/2 yard cuts, and I'm just going to stack them on top of each other here. So you can see the fold, both my folds are on this side, and then my salvage is on this side. And when we go to cut here in a minute, you'll see I'm going to turn it this way, and I'll actually be cutting it 16 inches wide here, like this. And then what we have left will trim down to be 20 inches. So these 2 pieces on the fold, keep in mind, are 16 by 20 long, okay? And again, I'll show you that as we get to the cutting. So those will be your 2 pieces, front and back. And then for your 2 pockets, one will be for the front, one will be for the back. Now for me, when I made the pillow the first time, I had a pocket on the inside because I used that to put little ice packs that would press against my stomach for healing. And then I also put a pocket in the front. And when I was like laying in bed or in my recliner, I used that front pocket for like my cell phone, chapstick, tissue, cough drops, things like that. So personally, I found having 2 pockets extremely helpful. So that's what I'm going to show you how to do on the tutorial. But if you just want one, then you'll only need 1 pocket that is 10 by 13. If you want 2 pockets, you'll need 2 pockets that are 10 by 13. And And just pay attention if you've got directional fabric. I've got some little foxes here. I'm going to kind of think about how I want those placed on the pockets, and that will determine how I cut this. This is actually a 1/2 yard cut, but I am not going to need all of that. So that's a little bit about your fabrics. Just decide, you know, if you're wanting to use whole 1/2 yard cuts, or if you want to piece together your front and your back. Just make sure that you make it big enough to where you're going to be able to cut it to 16 by 20, but keep in mind you're going to be cutting it on the fold. So ultimately you're going to really be needing that to be 40 inches long by 16, because when you open it up, you're going to want to make sure that it's 20 inches long. Okay, so that is a little bit of our fabrics. Decide which fabrics you want to use, and then let's get started and we will start our cuts. Okay, we're ready to cut our 2 1/2 yard cuts. Again, you may have 2 of the same print, or you may decide you want the front and the back to look different. So I've got these squared up on the end, so I've gone ahead and trimmed those. And I'm just going to scoot them down here to the edge of my cutting mat on top of one another. And once I get that done, then I'm going to make my cut at the 16-inch mark. So let's get this over here like this. And it'll be important that you keep these on top of one another for one of our next steps, which is where we actually measure where the armpit is going to go, because we're going to be making basically kind of a half circle. And when we do that, you want to make sure that the markings are the same on both cuts, so that when we sew them together, they're going to line up. So I think I've got this lined up pretty good here. I'm going to go ahead actually and just make one more clean cut on the edge, just to make sure I'm starting with a clean, even cut. So that end there was a little bit off. Okay, there we go. Okay, so now we're gonna come here. Remember, this is the fold. Both your folds are down here, your selvage is up here. And we're gonna cut at the 16-inch mark. And this is gonna basically be, if you look at it, this will be the bottom of the pillow, like where your pelvis is, and up here will be the top underneath your bust. So you can kind of see this is the width of what it will be. So that's what we're gonna cut first, 16 inches. So just be thinking, if you have directional fabric, you might want to be thinking about that. This one for me, I'll have to think about it when I sew, because the mushrooms are all facing the same direction. So there we go, 16 inches. We've got both of those cut now. We've got some fun scraps left over maybe to use. You could maybe use these to tie it up as part of the gift if you wanted. You could sew those together. Okay, so then I am going to turn my fabric, and the fold is now down here on this end. We want to keep that fold. And now I'm going to measure 20 inches. So we're going to make it 20 inches long, but technically it's really going to be 40 once we open this up on the folds, because remember, this wraps around you when you're using it around your abdomen. So I've got this lined up here, and we're going to make this down here at 20 inches and cut that. Okay, so these are your selvages down here at the end. All right. Okay. So we've got our 2 pieces. Now I'm going to keep these together, because now we're going to work on the armholes, and we're going to make those measurements. Okay, so since I have a directional print on one of mine, I'm going to need to make sure it's turned the right direction. So remember, this side right here, these are my folds. This is where I cut off the selvage. You're going to want to turn your fabrics in a way in which you're not cutting over here by the fold. You're actually cutting on this end towards what used to be the selvage. So now make sure your fold is on this end. And that works for me because my little mushrooms here are going to be facing the correct direction, because this whole piece is going to open up, both pieces are going to open up to 40 inches to make this really long pillow that wraps around you. So I'm just keeping them all on top of one another so that this is going to line up. And what we're going to do is I'm actually going to use this Clover water-soluble pen, and I'm going to make some markings. So our first markings that we're going to make are going to be from the end where your selvage was. We're going to measure in 4 inches and we're going to mark that. So let's get my ruler here, and we've got 4 inches right here. So I'm just going to mark that where it's really visible, and this will come off with a little spritz of water. Then you're going to come from where your fold is and you're going to measure 8 inches. So here's my fold on this end, and we're going to come down here. And here is the 8-inch mark right there. So we're going to mark the 8 inches right there. All right. Now this is going to be where we're going to be cutting our armhole. Okay. So if you've ever made an apron where you kind of have to kind of cut a curve, you kind of eyeball it, that's really what we're going to be doing. And I'm going to show you how to do that. So here we've got our 2 marks. This is 4 inches and this is 8 inches right here. So now from the center of these 2 marks, that would be 4 inches in. You can take your ruler and go in 4 inches. I'm just going to make a teeny little dot there so I know where the center of my armpit, the hole is for your arm, is going to be. Then you're going to come down approximately 5 inches from the center, okay? So I'm actually just going to go ahead and draw a line. Again, this is water soluble, so it'll be able to come out. And right here is going to be the bottom of the armhole. And let me just zoom in a little bit there. This is going to be the bottom of the armhole here. All right. Okay. So then I'm going to show you. Now what we're wanting to do is kind of make a soft curve here. All right. And so you can use your ruler if you want. You can just kind of eyeball it, just kind of roughly, just kind of make a curve here like this. This is not, it doesn't have to be perfect, but you're just going to kind of, where you've got this mark right here, you're just going to kind of come in, and I'm just going to use this water soluble, just kind of make a curve to the bottom of that line. Same here, just do a soft curve. Again, doesn't have to be perfect, but you can just kind of line it up here. So you see we've got a half circle. Now, if you have like a plate, or you have, I don't know, some other kind of curved dish or something that you want to place here that's approximately this size, that's a great way to do it. Just mark at the bottom your 5 inches, and you can lay a half of a plate or something and make a perfect circle, half circle here on that. But that is going to be how you measure it on this. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave these on top of each other, and I'll actually be cutting out this while these are on top of each other. So you could go ahead and get your clips if you want, and really kind of clip this together so it doesn't move, so that your half circles are lined up on both half yard cuts, just to kind of keep that there. And then we're going to turn it around and we're going to cut that out. Okay, so these are my favorite scissors. These are by Havel's, and they're serrated, so there's these little teeth in here, and it keeps your fabric from moving whenever you're cutting. So I'm going to turn these around. Again, remember, they're clipped together. We've got the fold over here, and I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to just kind of go ahead and cut out this oval here and make sure I like kind of how that looks. Let me go out just a little further with that. There we go. And you can think about too how big the person's arms are that you're making this pillow for, if you're making it for someone else or even for yourself. basically this is where it's going to lay under your arm, underneath this part of your arm on both sides. So you can adjust this if it needs to be bigger or smaller, but typically this works really well to have a little bit of wiggle room in there to have these measurements. So I've got them both, remember both of them are here. I've got the front and the back so that I'm actually cutting in the same spot for both. And again, I really love these scissors because they hold the fabric and they don't slip sometimes like other scissors do. So I'm just gonna cut, and because I've clipped it, it's keeping my fabrics together, and I can just turn the fabric as I go and not worry about it slipping. Now, of course, when we sew this together, it'll be sewn wrong sides together and flipped right sides out, and it'll be really nice and a really straight, pretty curve here. So there we go. All right, we have now cut out our armholes for both pieces. Isn't this gonna be fun? And what I'll do is I'll get a little bit of water and I can spritz this here. It'll get caught up in the seam, so you're not gonna see the water-soluble pin marks. But look, when we open this up, because we cut on the fold, we've got the front or the back, whichever you choose, of our pillow. So this is the part here that will cover your abdominal cavity. And then about halfway here, these are the ends that are gonna fold up underneath our arm and kind of go, this will be the side of the body where it tucks. So there's one, and then let's look. Oh, this print is so fun. Little mushrooms. Here is the back or the front, whichever one the person wants to use it for. So now you can see why we cut this on the folds, so that we didn't have to piece this together. Okay, so now we have our front and our back. Let's go ahead and cut our two pockets. Okay, now we're ready to cut the two pieces I need for the pocket. So we are going to want to cut our pockets 13 by 10. So we're going to want it to be a little bit wider than we want it long. So we're going to cut here 13 at the 13 mark. And this is doubled over just because I happen to have this as a half yard cut. So here is our 13 mark. And I'm gonna go ahead and cut off my selvage. Aren't these cute little foxes? I think they're just darling. The whole collection is just calming to me. And if you follow along and you know me, I do love kind of earthy, earth tone colors and animal prints. So we've got the fox. He's kind of facing all different directions on the diagonal. So I think that this is gonna work for me. Isn't that cute? Yeah. So we've got it 13 this way, and now we want to cut it here at about the 10-inch mark. So I'll bring this over and okay. So now we have our two pockets. They're going to be the same on both sides for me, completely up to you. But this makes it, with it being 13, even after we fold it in for our seams and what have you, it makes it wide enough for your ice packs. And I'll show you the ice packs that I have that fit in here. They're ice or heating packs that just kind of, you snap them and they're ready to go, or you can put them in the microwave. So this length works well, but if you want to alter the size of your pockets, you're welcome to. But I know for me, this worked well to put my cell phone in there, and I could put tissue and all of those kind of things. So now we've got our two pieces. So let's talk about what we're going to do with folding these. So the first thing you're going to do is figure out what's going to be the top. And so for me, my little foxes face both directions, so it really doesn't matter. But if you have a directional print, it may matter for you. So I'm going to flip this over. This is going to be my top, my sides, and my bottom. And so the first thing you're going to do is you're going to want to fold over your sides a 1/4 inch and then another 1/4 inch. And we're going to press. Same thing here, 1/4 inch, fold over 1/4 inch, press, another 1/4 inch and press. So let's go to the cutting mat and do that, or to the pressing station, and we'll do that. And I'll just give this a good press. There's a little starch, I think, on it. Everything seems to work a little bit better when things are starched. So we'll start on the side here, and I'll just kind of eyeball it for a 1/4 inch. You'll press that. And then you're going to want to fold in again another 1/4 inch. This way you don't see all of the frayed edges. This is the inside part of the pocket, so you're not really going to see that, or whoever you're making the gift for is really not going to see it, but this just really makes the edges look really nice. So this is the other side. Again, we're going to fold that about a 1/4 inch. We'll press. Fold in another 1/4 inch. And if you are finding this tutorial, there's a link in the description to take you to the blog article all about my hysterectomy, all about not only making this pillow, but also the heating pad for your neck, because gas gets trapped in your neck after after surgery, and they fill you full of carbon dioxide, and it's quite painful. So if you look in the box below, you'll see the link to the blog article all about my experience with the hysterectomy, and for the tutorial also for the heating pack that we use. I use lava rocks or lava sand, which is better than using like any type of grain, because eventually that grain rots and it smells bad. So make sure you take a look at the bottom of the description box for that link. Okay, this is now the bottom of the pocket. We've folded up 1/4 inch. Now we're going to come up again approximately a 1/4 inch. We're going to press all that down. And you're going to do this for both pockets, okay? So you might as well just go ahead after you see me do this one, go ahead and do the second one, so you'll have those ready. And you can clip these if you want to kind of keep them down. Sometimes they kind of want to come up a little bit if you're not pressing or going to sew these immediately, so you could just clip those there. Now, this is going to be the top of the pillow. And so usually you want a little bigger of a fold there. So I'm doing more, this is probably about 1/2 inch approximately. So we'll fold that down. This again is the top. So make sure if you're using a directional print, you're really thinking about that. And then we're going to come over again, about another 1/2 inch. So this will be folded down just a little bit more for the top of the pocket. And I'll use some clips here to kind of keep those down, because they'll want to pop up a little bit. And that'll just kind of keep everything in place for when it's time to stitch these to the front of and the back of your pillow. So there we go. So there's one pocket here. I'm going to go ahead, and you go ahead also and press our second one, and then we will talk about sewing these on to the front and the back of the pillow. So now we have both of our pockets pressed, and what we're going to do is we're going to take both of these pockets to the sewing machine, and on the very top of your pocket, which is where when you have folded this down about 1/2 inch, we're going to sew right along the edge, approximately 1/8 of an inch here. And, some people like to do it from the front, as long as you make sure you catch the back. My bobbin works really well in my Juki, and so oftentimes I'll just go ahead and sew from the back, and the stitch looks great on the front just because my bobbin tension works out really well. But whichever you prefer, just go ahead and top stitch about 1/8 of an inch from the bottom on both pockets, but you're not going to stitch around the sides yet. All right, so now we're at our sewing machine, and I'm going to do my top stitch here. Approximately 1/8 of an inch, and you'll back stitch. All the way down. Get that clip out of the way. And you'll have a nice finished edge for your pocket. And just try to look right here and make sure that's lined up so you don't have extra fabric sticking out the side. When I get to the end, I'll just go ahead and back stitch. And there we have that nice stitch. Whoops. And then here's what it looks like on the front. Okay, so let's do that on both the front and the back pockets, and we'll talk about next steps. And I decided I'm actually going to go ahead and make a second stitch. I'm just going to make it look a little more decorative. That really kind of distinguishes the top from the bottom. So I'm actually now on the front side, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do a second stitch. I'd say about maybe 1/8 of an inch from my first stitch on the bottom. And I think that's just going to make it look a little more polished, a little bit more finished. I'll just stitch all the way down here. Just kind of guesstimating, following along, about 1/8 of an inch. And I think that'll give it a little bit more of a finished look. Yeah, that does. I really like that. So it's up to you. You could do one, or you actually could do 2 stitches. Okay, now that we have both of our pockets top stitched, we're going to go back to our front and our back pieces to our pillow. Now, because we cut on the fold, you already have this basically center line that is on your front and your back. So what we're going to want to do is actually fold your pocket in half, and I still have these clips on there just to kind of keep those seams folded under. So I'm going to just fold this in half and finger press right there. If you want, you could take an iron and press that if you want. And I'll go ahead and do it for the other pocket since I just have it here to find the center, because we're going to use that method to line it up to the center of our front and our back pillow. So we'll just make a seam here, little pressed fold on both pockets. Okay, and then you've got your fold right here too. So this is how we find the center of our pillow. So let me zoom out. There we go. Now you can see we're at the top. So this is the top of our pillow. And you're going to want to really put it in the center. And if you want, you can get your ruler, if I can find mine. And we're going to measure down when I've got that upside down. So make sure you get it turned the right direction. It's a little hard to see my thread because I actually use 80 weight thread. It's a wonderful 80 weight thread, and I love to piece with it because it makes your blocks line up better because it's less thread to use. So you can get your ruler here, and we're going to measure down 5 inches, just like we did where the armholes were. 5 inches. So I'm just going to put a little mark there. All the way around. And again, this is a water erasable. You just spritz a little water on it and it'll go, those marks will go away, and I'll do one right there too. Okay, so that's where the pocket is going to be lined up. So come down about 5 inches from the center and just, there you go. You've got that already lined up perfectly. And then you're going to want to get your pins and pin this in place. Now we're not going to be sewing the top. We're only going to be sewing the sides and the bottom. So just go ahead and pin that all the way around. And we're going to take this to our sewing machine and we're going to stitch the pocket down. So we're going to do this on both the front and the back pieces. You're going to line and put your pocket here just like you did on this one and sew those to the front and to the back of your pillow pieces and pin those down really good. I'll be able to take these clips off now that I'm pinning these down so those won't be in the way. And so I like to sew about 1/8 of an inch all the way down and then all the way up the sides, and back stitch up here several times at the top, because when you're putting your ice packs or your cell phones or whatever in there constantly, you'll want to have plenty of extra stability here with stitches. So I go probably 4 or 5 times back and forth back stitch over the edges here of the top of your pocket. Okay, now we have our pocket sewn on to our front and to our back. And so now it's time to sew the 2 pieces together. And so what you're going to do is you're going to have them facing right sides together. So we'll flip these right sides together. And one of the things you'll want to do is you can pin or you can clip, either way. But since we cut these at the same time, remember we laid them on top of each other, then they're going to be pretty much the same size. So we'll lay this up and you can choose to clip or to pin. But what's going to happen is we're of course going to use Poly-Fil to fill this with stuffing. So that means we're going to have to leave some openings at 3 places on this quilt or on this pillow on the bottom. So you'll go ahead and you'll clip all the way around and you'll keep doing that. But let's look here at the bottom. When you get down here, this is a lighter color fabric, so it's a little easier to mark on. But you're going to want to leave an opening here, which is underneath the armhole, here underneath the center of the pillow, and then also over here under this armhole. And you'll want to have approximately, about, let's see here, I would say about 4 inches makes it nice where you can stuff your Poly-Fil in there. So go ahead and I'm going to mark mine. And you'll just kind of come underneath, because ultimately this is going to be folding. If you kind of look here at this fold, this pillow is going to be folded here. There's going to be a stitch here that's going to keep that Poly-Fil in place on this side. And then there'll be a stitch here that keeps it in place on this side. So go ahead and mark that. So I'm going to come here approximately about the center of where my armpit is, and I'm going to mark a 4-inch opening right there. And then same here, you've still got your crease. You should still have your crease from your pocket. And I'm just going to center that roughly and do the same thing. Mark 4 inches there, and then come down and do the same thing here. I haven't finished pinning yet, but find the center of the armhole. That's where the 4 inch is going to be, and then right about here. So 4 inches about there, roughly. So the other thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to, you don't have to, but I think it looks really nice, is you're going to want to find something that has a curve to it to have this curved corner here. And we're going to cut that off. So I actually have something called the box bag template. It's by my friend Carolina Moore. I'll link it for you in the description box. But you could use, I mean, anything that's a curve. This is my thread cutter. You could use that. You could use the bottom of a cup. But I find this is really helpful whenever you're making curved corners. So I'm going to go ahead and line this up here and just draw this center curve there. And I'll be cutting that off before I pin that. And then I'll go over here to this other side. And I'll do the same thing, get that lined up there. Get my box bag template and also draw the curve there on this end. And I'll cut that off before I sew it. So then I'll have some nice rounded corners. So go ahead and clip or pin, either way, everything all the way around. And don't forget, you don't want to sew where those openings are, because you're going to be stuffing Poly-Fil in 3 sections, under each armhole and in the center, and then we'll have to go back and sew these shut. So go ahead and pin all the way around. You can use your scissors before you pin if you want, and go ahead and cut off the corner here. Just round that off. You'll be sewing around the corner. It just makes for a nice finish there. And you'll do that on both sides. This side and then over here on this side as well. And then I'll finish clipping mine. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take it to the sewing machine and we're going to stitch all the way around. So usually what works best is to start down here on this end, because remember this is an opening here to stuff. Start here and back stitch really well, because when you're stuffing in there, this can come unstitched. And literally sew all the way around, under the armholes, across the top, this armhole, all the way down. And then when you get here to this opening, this mark, there's a mark right here where there's your first opening right here. You're going to back stitch several times here, skip this, pick up again right here, stitch all the way down to this mark, because this is where your next opening is. Leave this open because you're going to be stuffing Poly-Fil. Back stitch again, sew all the way down to here, which is almost where you start, back stitch there, and you've got this opening. So you're gonna have 3 openings at the bottom. And sometimes people like to clip it if they're afraid that they accidentally, you know, keep going. I usually use this blue pin, so if your fabric allows for that to show, that may work for you. So go ahead and pin all this around, sew a 1/4 inch all the way around except those 3 openings at the bottom, and don't forget to back stitch. Okay, so now we have sewn all the way around except where those 3 openings are on the bottom. So the next thing you're going to want to do is you're going to take your scissors and just cut all of the corners. Just make sure you don't cut your stitches there. We're also going to cut right around the corners, because we're going to be flipping this right side out, and it makes it easier whenever you trim just a little bit on those corners. So I'll do that there. I'll also do it on this side. Oh, probably in about, I guess, maybe 4 or 5 places. That'll make that fold out better. And then up here on these corners, that helps whenever you're turning your corners out, that you are able to get them completely poked out really well. So we've got all those. And now, same thing for the armholes. Since we're in a curve here, it makes it easier to turn it right side out. So you'll just go through and snip where the curve is on both armholes. So that should be enough right there for me. And we'll go to this one, same thing. Start really kind of where the curve is. And you can use regular scissors, just whatever you want to use. This helps a little bit with fraying to use the pinking shears, but either way. And then what we're going to do is we are going to pull it right side out. And I'm going to just take it from the center opening at the bottom. And you can see that's 4 inches. My hand fits in there really well. But depending on your size of your hand, maybe not. So I'm gonna just pull this out. And this is the fun part, where you actually get to see it really look like a pillow, and you can see your prints. And, you know, if you're making this for yourself, pick something that makes you happy, especially because if you're gonna be laid up, I know for me, it was the full 8 weeks for me of really resting a lot and doing everything the doctor said, because I did not want to risk busting stitches internally. It's called your cuff, and it can be really dangerous, and you have to go in for more surgery. So I really followed all of the doctor's orders, and I really enjoyed having this beautiful pillow, which I made mine out of different fabrics at the time, and I actually made a matching quilt. If you read my blog article, the quilt was made out of the same fabric, and also my neck heating pad too. So it was this matching set, and it just made me it just felt good to have all of that match while I was laid up for quite a bit in recovery. So you're just I am actually using a chopstick, any kind of point turner that you have, to go in and really poke out all of those corners there. I don't, a lot of people will use scissors. I don't, because I have poked through fabric accidentally before. So I am all about a point turner. I have a beautiful one over across the room I forgot to use, but I also have this chopstick that I use too. So those are poked out, those corners there. Let's double check this side. Get this poked out. And I really like this option of having two sides. Depending on your mood, you can take turns on which side you want to use, or if you're making this as a gift, if you want to kind of just make it a little more fun, you have an options of using two different prints that coordinate. Patchwork would be super fun as well. So there we go. I think this is our last point here to turn out. That's kind of more of a curve. And so now you can see how this looks like the hysterectomy pillow. I think I need to go in and poke that one out just a little bit more. There we go. All right, so this is one side here, and then here is the other side. Isn't that fun? Okay, so now we have our 3 openings. We've got one here, we've got one here, and one here. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to go over to the to my pressing station, and I'm actually going to just go through and just kind of rock your fabric where you can press all of these seams down nice and flat. So all around here, and see, since you cut here all along the armpit underneath, this turns really nicely, really smoothly. So go to your pressing mat, press all of this down. When you get down here to your openings, fold those under 1/4 of an inch, and you won't sew them shut yet because we're going to have to stuff this with Poly-Fil next. But just go ahead and iron those over 1/4 of an inch, because we're going to actually be sewing that shut after we stuff this with Poly-Fil. So again, you'll press that all the way around. So do that now, and then after that, we will look at stuffing with Poly-Fil, and I'll show you how I do that, and then how we close it up, and you're all ready to use the hysterectomy pillow. Okay, so now you have pressed everything down really well all along your entire pillow here. And so now it's time to actually make the 3 sections. So what you're going to do is you're going to take your ends of each side here, and you're going to fold. You're going to make you a crease. And notice remember I told you to leave the openings. There's an opening on each section here, the middle, and on this end. So mine has already been pressed, and it will be ready to close shut after we stuff it with Poly-Fil. So just take it there, and you can either press it, or I'm going to use this lovely seam roller from Modern American Vintage. I'll put that for you in the description. So I'm going to make a seam there. You can see that. Isn't that nice? You don't even have to use your iron. You can see that from there. And I'm going to do it on the other side as well. So just right where that line forms, you're just going to take it, line it up, and do the same thing. You're going to want to make sure there's a straight line there, and you'll just press that. Again, you can do it with your sewing machine. I'm actually just going to do it here like this, so I don't have to go to the pressing station. Make a nice seam. Now what you're going to do is you're going to take this to your sewing machine, and you're just going to back stitch at the beginning and the end, and just sew one stitch all the way down on both sides. This is going to give you your 3 sections. And so this is going to be like what's up against your stomach. And this is what folds underneath your arms whenever you're using this in the car or in your recliner or in bed. So let's go ahead and stitch this, and then we will stuff our hysterectomy pillow. Okay, now we have sewn our section here. So this means we can stuff this section, stuff this section, and stuff this section. And by having these seams here, it'll make it easier to fold, and it also keeps the Poly-Fil in their own areas. So you're gonna need a bag of Poly-Fil. This is what I use. I got this, I think I got this from Walmart. It's 16 ounces, and it is the premium, but you could use whatever kind of polyester fill that you wanna use. And what you're gonna do is you're actually just going to stuff each of the sections now with the Poly-Fil. And these are not my fabric scissors, in case you're wondering. And the opening that you've left, like at 4 inches, is pretty much where you can put your hand in there and stuff it. So I like to start up in the top corner here and stuff it. And you want to make it where it's nice and firm to offer support, you know, for your stomach and under your arms. So it's based on your preference, or maybe the preference of whoever you're making this for if it's not for yourself. But you literally just go in there, and I start up at the top first and really stick that in all those crevices. These usually come with a stick that looks like this, and you can use that to poke the Poly-Fil up in there if you want, but I actually just usually end up using my fingers. So go ahead and just start stuffing. This takes a little bit of time just to really get it smooth. As you put all that in there, just kind of see how that feels for you or for the person that you're making it for. But I like to make mine fairly firm. So go ahead and stuff your sections. This section, you'll do the same thing with your middle section and your end section. And then we will actually, you have 2 options. You can either take this to your sewing machine and stitch these holes closed, which is what I'm gonna do, or you can hand stitch them if you don't want, you know, that to be seen as much. But to me, just using an 80 weight thread that really kind of matches and blends works well for me. So go ahead and stuff these, and we are almost done with the pillow. Okay, so the pillow is completely stuffed. So you can see kind of the thickness here. I used the entire bag of the 16 ounces of Poly-Fil, and so it's really nice, and it's got stability there for under your arms, because ultimately the way this is going to work is this is going to fit like this. This is going to tuck underneath your arms here. If you can see, my arms are right here, and then the pillow is in front, and so you've got the pocket here for, you know, your phone or what have you, and then you've also got the pocket in the middle. So you can kind of see how that feels for you or whoever you're making it for. And now we've got these openings. So what I'm gonna do, I'm actually gonna use, I have these smaller clover clips, and since I've already pressed everything, I am gonna go ahead and just kind of clip those. I've found it's easier than pins. And I am going to use my zipper foot on my sewing machine. I'm going to swap that out because that's so narrow. I have found it makes it a bit easier to sew this shut. Since there's so much puff to each side, it can kind of be a little difficult to get this under your machine. So if you don't want to do that, it's no problem. You actually could hand stitch these shut, but I am going to show you what it looks like whenever you stitch this underneath the sewing machine. So go ahead and clip these shut if you want to do that with me, or again, you can hand sew, but we're just gonna, there's no top stitch all the way around the entire pillow. It's only to close up these holes where you put in the Poly-Fil. So let's go do that. Okay, so I have put on my zipper foot here, and like I said, it can be a little tricky, but I just smash this down. I've got my clips that I keep on there as I go. So I have a knee lift, so I'm able to use both hands with this machine. Just kind of get that in place there. And then I'm going to back stitch. And then as I go, I'm actually going to take my clip off each time. Let me zoom in here. And I'm going to use this stiletto. It's called a 5th finger stiletto. And I'm just going to sew a little bit. Take the clip off. Use my stiletto, keep that down. Like I said, if you want to hand stitch this, you can. But I just find I don't have a lot of time for that or patience for much hand stitching other than English paper piecing if I'm away from my studio. So I just stitch and remove a clip. And again, the zipper foot I've found is really, really helpful because it's so narrow. So you're able to really not have to worry about the edge of the pillow kind of pushing your presser foot out of the way. And just kind of smash it. The Poly-Fil smashes really well. And hold that down. Almost to the edge. And then back stitch. And then there we go. You have stitched that closed right here. And it's nice and full and fluffy. So I'm going to go ahead and stitch this opening and also this one here. And we will be finished with our hysterectomy pillow. So here we go. This is one side. You can see it's nice and full. We've closed up all our holes. Flip it over. It's reversible. And I wanted to show you the ice packs and the heat packs I use. So there's different ones you can get. You get on Instagram. These came home with me from the hospital, and they fit perfectly inside the pocket. So if this was going to face you and your abdomen, this is actually the instant. This is a hot pack right here, and it fits perfectly in there. And I know there's a couple of other ice packs that we have that work. These are 6 by 9. That's the shape, so I made sure that the pocket was going to work. And then also this is actually for the cold, so you can do cold or hot packs, and they just fit right in there when you put them like that. And then you've got the front here. You can put your remote control. You can put, you know, pen, paper, cough drops. My throat was kind of sore for a while because of the tube that was down my throat. So just whatever you want to put in your pockets, you've got options. Okay, friends, well, I hope you found this hysterectomy pillow tutorial extremely helpful. Again, the links are below in the description blocks for all the supplies I used, as well as my blog article in which I talk about my hysterectomy. Some other resources for you in there that I found helpful in my journey with healing, as well as the tutorial for the lava sand neck heating pad. So I wish you well in your recovery, or whoever you are making this for. And until next time, quilty friends, make lovely things, and don't forget to subscribe for future tutorials.